You do, John. Excuse me. Well, I think because I am a missionary, foreign missionary, I wholeheartedly agree with that statement that all Christians are missionaries or they're imposters. And I'll dive a little deeper into this sentiment in a moment. When I was in grad school up at ACU, or in seminary, as our preacher would say, I often used the book of the Strong's Concordance to give me help on my biblical exegesis. And so, using Strong's, I looked at Matthew 28, 18 to 20, and I realized something. And it's funny that Christ called his disciples, guys, to go, therefore, and make disciples of all nations. But the go in the Strong's can mean travel, journey, go, and die. Die? And I looked into that, and I thought, what could that mean? Then I started analyzing it more and more, and it means to give your life for a cause. So go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe everything I have commanded you. Behold, I am with you always, even to the very end of the age. Okay. We've all heard that before. So what about those of us with secular jobs? Oh, that's just about everybody. Everybody except me. So what about those of you with secular jobs? What about the farmers, the teachers, the secretaries, the web technicians, whatever it is that you guys do? And I appreciate that y'all are hardworking people. I look back at Kevin Frazier, and I know you guys are hardworking people because I know how hardworking he is. So what about? That's my question for you guys first. How do we go about following the Great Commission? Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I've commanded you. And surely I'm with you always, even to the very end of the age. How do we follow that while we're holding down a job?
Go to the office and teach them.
Oh.
As you're going to the office, teach the drivers around you as well as you can.
Yeah.
Be a polite driver.
Be a polite driver, let them in, whatever it takes to make them curious about what you've got.
Yeah. Make a difference.
Make a difference. Point them to Jesus.
Point them to Jesus.
I find the secular to be unhelpful. There's no such thing as a secular job. If you're doing something from 9 to 5 that contributes life to the world, that's not a secular job.
Yeah.
That's a spiritual job.
Well said, Robert. Did y'all hear that? He said he finds that there's no such thing as secular. That if you're contributing life to the world, then you're doing your job. And if
you're not contributing life to the world, why?
Yeah. Why? If you're not contributing life to the world or influencing the world in some aspect, then something's wrong, something's amiss. All all Christians are missionaries or imposters. That said the small church sign in my neighborhood in South Austin. I believe that. I believe, as a foreign missionary, I totally believe that. But as a member here at Southern Hills for the last year plus, I believe that. Because we have within our capacity, within our abilities, the capacity to influence people for Jesus indeed. So I asked you, I said, what about those of us with secular jobs, which is everybody, minus the ones speaking to you. We can all be the hands and feet of Jesus. We can all be the hands and feet of Jesus. Let's see. We can't all be foreign missionaries, though, guys. But we can live missional lives. What does that mean, living a missional life? We can perhaps invite our friends to church. We can, I'm thinking of Robert Jones. We can visit the invalids. I'm thinking of Chuck Meisenheimer. We can care for the sickly. I'm thinking of Jerry Borshading. We can sign for the deaf. I'm thinking of Sophie Ellison and Gwen Dominic, etc. And we can teach the children. I'm thinking of Leslie Luther. So it's like the one body here at Southern Hills has many parts. And if all those parts are functioning together, working as a whole, we as a church family will flourish. We will thrive. We will live into Jesus' Great Commission. Okay, we're talking here today, guys, about the missional life. What is being missional? What is the missional life?
To begin with, it has to be an attitude.
Yes, Bob, right on. Bob says it has to be an attitude. Attitudes change everything in life. Everything. To be missional means you have to have the missional mindset, the attitude. Anybody else? Anybody else? What is the missional life?
Hey, Ryan.
Yeah.
Thinking in terms of that word missional, it implies a mission.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I find somewhat unhelpful is the idea that we've just been put here to go to heaven. There's some truth to that, but it's not the whole truth.
Yeah.
We have, as human beings, a vocation. We have a mission. And sin is nothing more than a failure to fulfill that mission, a failure to carry out that vocation.
Okay.
And so the good news that we're spreading and sharing is the idea that we can get back to that vocation. We can get back to that mission.
Yeah.
Being proper human beings.
Yeah. Okay. The good news that we're sharing, Robert says, is that we can get back to that vocation of being what Jesus has called us to be. Did I paraphrase it well? Yeah. What about some of you
mention the little things I've noticed with people if I have lunch with them, how they engage the serve staff.
Yeah.
And because I've seen that, I've become more cognizant of that, and I've stopped.
Mm.
And I've tried to think, don't not see those people. Engage those people. Talk to those people. You know, that's just a very simple thing about getting outside of, I'm here to eat, give me my food so I can get on to my mission. Engage those people because that's part of the broader mission.
Yeah, yeah. You know, what you said, John, very much correlates with what Bob just mentioned. It's a change in perspective. It's a change in perspective where we might see the world as differently than we did before. Yeah. What about anyone else? Anyone else that? What do you guys think about this? Being missional is the hands and feet of Jesus. Being in the hands and feet of Jesus in order to proactively serve the world, serve God in radical ways.
I like the word proactive.
Yeah.
We're not just sitting tight.
Yeah, yeah. Good, good. Proactively serve God in radical ways. Being missional, guys, means we should engage the world the same way Jesus did, by going out rather than just reaching out. Missional means that when the church is in mission, it is then the true church. In light of this idea of being missional, we can best sum it up. How can we sum it up? Maybe using the words of Paul, who said, "So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God. And whatever you do, whether in word or deed, do it all in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him." So a working definition of incarnational ministry, holy Jones, not Robert Jones, but holy moly, in incarnational ministry, a working definition of an incarnational ministry is the immersion of oneself into a local culture and becoming Jesus to that culture. Incarnational ministry seeks to dispense with the ministry from a distance and rather embrace ministry that is up close and personal. The love of God and the gospel of Christ are incarnated or embodied by the person ministering. Just as Jesus took on human flesh and came into the world, we too should adopt to the culture in which we are ministering. Okay. Now things are resonating with me. We should adopt to the culture in which we are ministering. What does that make you think of? Do you think of Paul, who said, "I became all things to all men, so that by all possible means I may save some through Jesus"? Let's see. The idea that Christians should represent and the incarnated gospel is called incarnational theology. Oh, mercy. A central tenet of incarnational ministry is the concept to live the good news rather than just preach the good news. Incarnational ministry, there is an emphasis on being engaged with people and living a life of Christ-likeness. These are both biblical mandates, guys. John.
So can you unpack a little bit? I'm tracking, but there's a side of me that says, so immerse oneself in the local culture and become Jesus to that culture. Where does that line hit? You can choose whatever activity that you want. I'll just choose debauchery. And I said, does that mean I'm supposed to go out and participate in debauchery? And I'm supposed to be in that culture, smell like that culture, behave like that culture, so that then maybe I can teach them about Jesus? I don't believe that's true. But I would like for you to unpack a little bit of that, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Well, what did Paul say? He said, be all things to all men, so that by all possible means he may save some through Jesus Christ. So I would unpack that, John, in the following manner. To embrace or to meet people where they are, and to do what Bob said, just give them a different perspective or a different way of thinking. Not so far as to participate in the debauchery going on, the sinfulness going on, but rather to witness it maybe, and just to give them a different perspective. Yeah, Jill.
A preacher at a church we used to go to had a saying that he would say, sometimes you have to sit in the smoking section. He didn't say, you got to smoke, but he said, sometimes you're going to have to sit in the smoking section.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of encapsulates what you just said. You got to go into the places, but you don't have to participate in the behavior necessarily.
Yeah, it's a fine line, Jill. It's a fine line. Because sometimes we do not always want to go into the places if we know that temptations will be rich. Robert.
If I could speak, I work at a place of debauchery.
Oh, okay.
I work at a place
You do.
where more than half the people who live there are addicts. There's illicit sex going on all the time. There's drinking and alcohol and fighting and language, and it's a place where 13-year-old Robert would not have been allowed to go.
Yeah.
But it's a place full of people who need to see Jesus. And just because I'm there for a third of my life doesn't mean that I have to take up drinking and heroin and all of those things.
Yeah.
It means I have to sit next to those people. It means I have to hug those people. It means I have to be involved in those people's lives. But there's a huge difference between doing that and shooting at heroin.
Yeah.
And I think to be concerned is one thing. But if we let that concern keep us away from those people, that is what the Pharisees were. The Pharisees were people who said, we can't go near those people, we can't eat with sinners, we can't sit with sinners, we can't do anything with sinners because they might rub off on us. I think it's incredibly dangerous to give our kids that message without also then giving them the message, but you still have to be friends with them.
Yeah.
Friends with them doesn't mean that you then take up their lifestyle, but you have to be friends with them.
John.
So Robert always stimulates thought in my brain. That is, I mean, now, so my first question was, I kind of knew where the line was, right? I wanted to unpack this a little bit, just more for me and for conversation. But now, now that the line is fuzzier, and if you want to move on, Ryan, you say, John, stop talking. But here's the thing, is I'll give y'all a personal example. Media in our home, we struggle because the media shows, that are on television in the evenings now, it's just crazy what's on TV. So we watch TV with our kids, and we choose our stuff after the kids are asleep. But our kids are in this culture with other kids and stuff. And I agree, Robert, exactly what you're saying. We try to teach our kids, you have to be kind to these people. You can't, when I say these people, I mean, you have to be kind to everyone. But honestly, I don't I would not, and I don't allow my kids, if I know that there's a household that has bad stuff happening in that house, I don't allow my kids to go over there. It doesn't mean that those kids can't come play in our yard, but I don't allow our kids to go over there. And I think that's part of being a wise parent. I'm not saying, Robert, that you're not a wise parent by any means. So, but now that line gets really fuzzy. How do we teach our kids to love everyone, but you don't cross these lines, you know?
Yeah,
I think it's supposed to be fuzzy.
it's supposed to be fuzzy.
It's supposed to be a fuzzy line. Because Jesus represented that fuzzy line. He was fully divine and fully human. Without sin, but fully divine and fully human.
Yeah.
You know, we could start just being kind to one another.
Yeah.
Ooh, very important. We can start just by being kind to one another.
That may open up doors for us.
Yeah, I think kindness will open doors. But I think we will do well with being kind, but we must not end with kindness. Which is one of my friends in the past thought all she had to do was just be kind to people and win them for Jesus. And this person and I had differences basically about that. And she is now married, has a family, and I wish her well. In the back. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm seeing kind of what they're both saying, and that's kind of my struggle also, is that, you know, you can find these ungodly cultures everywhere now, and it's very proliferating, like even in schools or workplaces, and those are easy to immerse yourself in those without, you know, outright being where there's drugs and alcohol and stuff like that. But those places can be so toxic, and you know, it's just so aversive, the ideologies and practices that are out there now that, you know, at least with me as an introvert, I just as soon stay away from people in general. When it becomes like that, I was like, I really don't want to be there, and I'm perfectly happy in my blogs with, you know, the people that already cause me strife, my family and, you know, some friends or whatever. I can immerse myself in that and I'm fine, but to get to those other bigger situations, it's exhausting, aversive, and, you know, it's become more of a thing these past, 3 years that, I've never faced it like that before. So I think the struggle is kind of different, so.
Yeah, good point. I think Christians are either missionaries or imposters. And I want to go on. Well, before I ask how do y'all feel about that statement, I want to say this, that there's no way around it or better way to state it. Christ may have called a select few to leave their homes and go to foreign fields, but he's called all of us to the entire missionary enterprise suffers when disciples choose not to leave their homelands in order to share Jesus, simply because they lack the ability to readily articulate a solid, coherent, cogent, understandable announcement of faith. Okay, so now you see where I'm going a little bit with this. One of my mentors, a man by the name of David Allen, who labored in Thailand for many years, states it this way, claiming that if we are all are disciples of Christ and obedient to his world, then we are all representatives of Christ in this world. We are subservient to the King, and our lives are no longer our own. I've been crucified with Christ, and it is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. And the life I live in the flesh, I live by what? By faith in the Son of God, who saves me. and gave himself for me. We've got about 10 minutes left. We're going to skip some of it, and I want to talk to you guys about being an ambassador of Christ. Sorry, we have to go fast. We've got 10 more minutes. What do you guys, to you, is being an ambassador of Christ? I've got 2 Corinthians 5:20 written down as our text. What do you guys is being an ambassador of Christ? John, shoot.
As much as I don't like this definition, it means that when people are watching me and then they find out I'm a Christian, how I have behaved affects how they think Christ is, and people who follow Jesus are like that. And so I don't like that definition, so let's find another.
Okay, yeah, we'll find another definition, but that's a good place to go. Carol.
In order for me to know, I get out and visit, I visit my neighbors. I always speak, being aware of my surroundings. And the little things that we can do. For instance, what I like to do is when I go to Walmart and there's one of those carts sitting out there, I get on it and I take it up there.
Yeah, good.
Because it needs to be up there, being plugged in, so that somebody that needs it has it. I've got taken one up there and there was somebody sitting there waiting for one. And I'm taking it up there. So the other day I was there with a gentleman who's a retired preacher, and I said, hey, Brother Bob, there's one over there. I'll get this one, you get that one. And I said, well, somebody up there may need it. First thing I know, there he was going on that cart. And he's 91 years old.
Yeah.
But there's always opportunities. And in that interaction, there may come a time when somebody says or indicates something that gives you an opening. Whenever you can talk with them. I had a neighbor, Phyllis Parks was her name, and I was always taking food, and we'd go in and Bible study with her one time. She asked me when she wanted to study the Bible, so I went to Half Price Bookstore and got her one. And we were studying at her coffee table, and she looked up at me and she said, I want to be baptized. Well, I never had anything like that happen to me, you know.
Wow.
So I got a hold of Brother Jim. He knows the rest of the story.
Wow. Good.
But there's always opportunity if we are listening for him. Because the Christ in me is called the Holy Spirit, and he talks to me. And when I ask him, show me somebody today that I can help, and then I watch, he'll do it.
Good. Ted.
Wherever we are in life, we've got to be God's person.
Yeah.
Kind of like Robert. Most of my life, I have been around pretty bad folks because of my occupation. And if we are God's person and a Christian, wherever our environment is, we will be doing what Jesus wants us to do. I mean, look at Joseph and Daniel. They were in two heathen countries, but they never lost their faith in God. And the Bible speaks volumes about both of those. The same is true with the disciples. Wherever they were God's person. They were Christian. And then everything else followed from it. I try to make sure that Christianity in my life is not like being in the Rotary Club or the Garden Club, you know, because it's not. You know, you don't put on Christianity when you show up here. I'm not saying I haven't done that. I'm just saying that we're not supposed to be that way. Christianity is the core of And so be careful when you pray for opportunity, because then God will send you opportunity.
Yeah.
It's like He sends you patience. You know, don't ask for patience; you will get plenty of trials.
Be careful.
Opportunities the same way. You get plenty of opportunities wherever you are. So, you know, being a Christian, everything else follows that.
Yeah, good. We've got a few more minutes.
That clock's a little fast.
Oh, okay. John.
One day, Jesus stopped at Jacob's well. The 12 men that were with him, the students of the rabbi, went into town to get food. When they came back, nobody was with them. They were not being evangelists. These 12 students of the rabbi failed. There was an outcast of outcasts and a woman to boot who had a short conversation with the rabbi. She went to the village and brought the whole group back. This woman was the apostle to her village. She was the messenger. She wasn't a long-time student of the rabbi. She didn't go to seminary. She had a brief conversation with this strange man about funky water, and she went and brought the whole village. So, were these 12 men imposters? Imposters in training? No. They were just like us. They hadn't quite gotten it yet. So, pray for that insight so that we can, as ambassadors of Jesus, talk to that woman who will bring the village.
Yeah, we need to pray for insight, don't we, John? So we can talk to that woman who, John says, will bring the village. I want to talk to you guys about my friend Fu Chang and his conversion story. Fu Chang had I met him at Wuhan Ligang Dashui, Wuhan University of Technology, several years ago. And when I met him, he was a senior at WTU, where I was teaching English as a vocational missionary. And we met at a Chinese dumpling restaurant, a place to go eat dumplings, jiaozi we called them. And we frequently visited this restaurant because it was so close to campus. Now David, Fu Chang, whom I later named David because of his sincere belief, sincere faith, David frequently visited there, and I invited him to my apartment, where I soon after that started talking to him about the good news. And so David and I would crack the Bible and would play ping pong together on the weekends. So we could often be found at the school gym playing ping pong and breaking a sweat together, actually. While playing ping pong together, I would often share about my true joy named Jesus. And in China, we had to disguise our language when talking about different things, anything to do with Christianity. So I referred to Jesus as my joy. Let's see. So after about 3 months together of David and I playing ping pong and eating dumplings at the restaurant, he told me, studying the Bible together for those 3 months, he told me, he said, Ryan, Pa, I want to be baptized. I said, great, let's do it. And so we went down to the school gymnasium where we'd play ping pong. And they had a pool there, a swimming pool. And so when no one else was looking, I baptized him in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit for the remission of his sins. And David became my best friend. We'd hang out together all the time. And therefore, one more was added to the kingdom. I believe David was my second or third in Wuhan that year. And that was pretty wonderful to meet such a fine young man and have him come to Christ. With dumplings and ping pong. So
That's not scary. Tell me ping pong is not scary.
yeah, ping pong is a very, very spiritual game because we'd often talk about what we had been studying in the Bible during our ping pong matches and talk about life. And so what would you guys have done if you were me in this situation with Fu Chang, whom you later named David, and who was coming to Christ, who you were trying to bring to Christ? What would you have done? Done differently? Done the same? No hands. So I take that to mean nothing. You would have done nothing differently.
Can I tell you what college student Robert would have done?
Yeah.
Nothing. Because college student Robert believed that the only way to evangelize was to talk about Jesus and talk about the Bible. And literally nothing else. And so if I didn't have that glaring opportunity staring in your face, I would have done it. I would not have created that.
We need to create the opportunities. And so college student Robert and college student Ryan, and probably all of us in here, have grown much since the past days. And so I think this is exactly what we need to be asking ourselves. What would we be doing to reach the outsiders? How do we reach the outsiders?
Jesus asked for a great wall.
Let them serve us.
Ryan, I'm sorry to monopolize the whole class. I love this topic. And I feel like we don't talk about it. Jesus came to bring the kingdom, right?
Yeah.
A kingdom is wherever the king rules. There's an old song, I don't think we sing it here, but it's Christ has no hands but our hands. We are the only Bible the world needs. And so what it feels like to me, if we remove ourselves from the culture around us, that debauched, lawless, awful culture, we are condemning it to hell. We are saying there's no hope. The king does not rule here. If we remove our kids from school, we're saying there's no hope. We're condemning that school to hell.
Interesting thoughts, Robert. So we don't want to be a people that remove ourselves totally from society. There's a fine line, guys. I struggle with this much of the time. I don't know. Go ahead, Chuck.
So I'd like to go full circle now here for a moment.
Okay, please.
You started out by saying Christianity, if we're not missionaries, we're imposters. And I said there's some truth in that. But as I continue through this, I think we have to be cautious with a statement like that. And I heard what Mary Baxter said. It's very
Chuck, indeed. We'll dismiss here in a moment. And I do not mean to tell you guys that if you are not missionaries, you will be imposters. I'm saying that's just a sign I saw in a little church in my neighborhood in South Austin. Hey, I appreciate you guys, and I thank you for the stimulating study we had, and church will be in a few moments.
And I have the